Hello, welcome to another episode of Science Talks, a conversation hosted by the University of Arizona's BIO5 Institute. My name is Amy Randall Barber. The BIO5 Institute is home to hundreds of researchers and students, as well as many administrative staff who help support the cross-disciplinary research conducted here. Today we are joined by Dr. Nicole Jimenez, who is currently in the Herbst-Kralovetz lab at the University of Arizona's College of Medicine Phoenix location. She got her PhD from Virginia Commonwealth University School of Medicine. She was recently awarded 2 postdoctoral fellowships, one from the Community Foundation for Southern Arizona and another from the BIO5 Institute. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get started, I'd like to ask a couple of fun, icebreaker, rapid fire type questions just to kind of loosen the mood. So let's see, what is one of your nicknames?
Yeah, so I really don't have like a unique nickname, just Nikki, but I was thinking about this. I play the role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons, and one of my characters' name is Sin Nombre, which means without name. And the funny thing about this is that Melissa, my PI that I work with, early on in her career, she worked with a virus called the Sin Nombre virus.
Oh,
and I recently found this out, and I thought it was so interesting, serendipitous.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. That's cool. What is your hidden talent?
Yeah, so I would say my hidden talent would be like cooking and more recently mixology.
Ooh.
During the pandemic, I was working on my dissertation, but I also picked up mixology. And more recently, I've been focusing on non-alcoholic cocktails.
Yes, that's become like a big kind of popular thing now. I love that.
Sure.
Do you do anything with like the smoke and how they kind of get that in there?
I have many like different wood burning chips for smoking, and then different bitters that I make. It's a really fun experience, and I know the whole like no alcohol craze that's coming around is really important as well for your health.
Definitely.
But you still want that experience to socialize and create like a beautiful experience to share with others.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite drink that you make?
As far as like an alcoholic drink, I would say a Negroni.
What's in that?
Yeah, so that has Campari, gin, and some other bitters in it.
Oh, wow. Okay. And what about for non-alcoholic?
For non-alcoholic, I usually do like a rose mule. So it has like rose
that sounds
syrup,
amazing.
Ginger. Yeah.
I want that. If I ever come to Phoenix, I'm going to find you and try to see if I can get you to make me one.
For sure.
All right. Well, thank you for indulging us in our fun questions. So let's see. We'll kind of get right into some of the other the research stuff. What is your current research, and what got you first interested in it?
Yeah, so I was recruited to U of A to work on the microbiome because in my graduate career, that's what I was working on, the microbiome and its relationship to pregnancy and preterm birth. Here, I get to work on the microbiome, both rectal, gut, rectal, vaginal, endometrial, and how it relates to gynecologic cancers, as well as benign gynecologic conditions such as endometriosis, chronic pelvic pain. So that's kind of what I've been working on, and I kind of got into that because early on when I was trying to pick my major at ASU, I went to ASU for undergrad, I was a nutrition major because I wanted to see how environmental factors impact health.
Okay.
And it was there I learned about the gut microbiome. And it really got me fascinated with how that impacted health. And so I switched my majors to microbiology, and I've stayed in this like same vein of research ever since. But now I work on women's health.
That is great. Wow. Okay. That's awesome. I love to hear those kind of journey stories, you know, of kind of what was your pivotal moment and what you know made you decide to change your mind on something. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about the overall research goals of your lab?
Yeah, so the Herbst-Kralovetz lab really focuses on women's health research, and we incorporate metabolomics, microbiome, and immunoproteomics to understand better how certain conditions occur, as well as better ways that we can think of modulating either the microbiome to have better health outcomes. And so right now our main focus is gynecologic cancers, mostly cervical cancer and endometrial cancer. as well as these benign gynecologic conditions. Some of them have similar characteristics to cancers, such as adenomyosis, which is an overgrowth of cells in the muscles of the uterus. And we also look at endometriosis and chronic pelvic pain.
Oh, wow. Okay. Can you tell us what the most exciting part of your current research is, and how it fits in with the overall goals of the lab?
And identifying as a woman, I think working in the women's health space, every day I discover something different. And it's really impactful that it took me researching in this area to learn about like different symptoms or quality of life outcomes. And so I really think like that is probably the most exciting part, is like learning all of that information, but also trying to create like change in the management of those symptoms, or creating early diagnostics. Like endometriosis currently takes 6 to 7 years for a patient to get diagnosed with endometriosis. And that's just like not acceptable.
And how do they diagnose that?
Yeah, so usually it's through symptoms originally, and then you can do MRIs or other sorts of information or diagnostics like that. And then ultimately, to fully understand like the endometriosis, you have to have like surgery or biopsy, which is really invasive.
Yeah.
So our lab is really focusing on other ways that we can diagnose sooner, as well as less invasively.
Okay. That would be great for all women everywhere.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Are the projects for your postdoctoral fellowships the same or different? If they are different, can you explain the difference and for both of the different fellowships that you were awarded?
Yeah, so both of the fellowships that I was awarded are on a particular bacterium called Adipobium vaginae. It's now called Thanaghesia vaginae. And during my graduate school career, we identified that this one bacteria is actually 3. Oh. However, not a lot of research has been done on those 3, and are they different from one another? Are they similar? But this particular bacteria has been associated with BV, increased inflammation, and more recently, endometrial and cervical cancer.
Wow.
So you can see how that ties into our lab's overall goals.
Yeah.
So my project is focusing on these 3 new species, newly identified species, and looking at both in our clinical cohorts for cervical and endometrial cancer, and kind of looking at associations for different clinical factors or metabolic profiles or immunoproteomic profiles. And then we also have this sub-study of my postdoctoral work where the Herbst-Kralovetz lab has focused on this 3D cell culture model. So it looks similar to like human tissues, and we can infect these cells with the bacteria and then look at how they change the immune environment, how they change the metabolomic environment, and then that gives us better understanding of these host pathogen interactions.
Wow.
Like how are these bacteria potentially progressing some of the cancers?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Have you had any influential mentors in your personal life or your educational career?
Yes, many.
Yeah.
I think mentors are really important. I think I had my first mentor when I was in high school, and then when I went to undergrad, I had a whole bunch of different mentors because I was part of this scholar program called Los Diablos, and you're assigned a mentor for each year that you're in the undergrad program. And then during graduate school, I obtained even more mentors because I was part of the IMSD programs and prep programs that are funded by the NIH. And so I've had many mentors throughout the year, and currently through the BIO5 program, I was able to create a mentorship committee where now I have mentors here in Tucson as well as Phoenix that are helping kind of guide me on my project, but also on career advice, because right now I'm a postdoc, so where am I going next? How do I get there? What are the advice that they have that made them successful in moving and transitioning there?
Yeah.
And because giving back to the community is really important, I also currently mentor many students, not only in our lab, which is predominantly 90% women. So that's getting more women interested in science and interested in women's health, which tends to be underfunded and under-researched. But also through the WISE program, the Women in Science and Engineering here at U of A, and through the Los Diablos program. But now, instead of being a mentee, I'm a mentor.
That's so wonderful, the full circle there. And I was just going to say, you would be perfect on our panel for our Women in STEM event. We do, BIO5 hosts a Women in STEM event every year.
I listened to it. It was recent. I listened to it virtually.
Oh, cool. Very cool. So we tried doing it in July this year during our Keys program. So we could invite those high school students that were already here for the program to come as well. And usually we do it in February. So I will be in touch with you in the future.
For sure.
For that, to see if you're interested. Yeah. Thank you for all your mentorship too. It's always wonderful to
it's something I love to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then, right, anything that you love to do, it just kind of comes out naturally, right? It's like, so what's next for you? What are your big plans? How do you tend to live in the moment more and just kind of do it step by step, day by day, month by month, or are you like a big planner, like, okay, 2 years from now I will be here?
Yeah, so I think it takes a little bit of both to be like successful in academia or in science in general. For me, I like to plan out a little bit like the major goals that I have and like how to get there. But then you also have to be like flexible because your experiment might not go right, or like a grant opportunity might just pop up and you're like, well, that fits the description and I'm going to apply to it. So I think you kind of have to be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And so for me, my next step is to work towards a K-99 grant so that it can transition me from my postdoc position to an academic professorship position. So I'm working on a few other grants at the moment too, and our lab is like working on publishing many manuscripts.
Oh, wow.
So be on the horizon for that. They're coming out, especially on our endometrial cancer study.
Oh, wow, cool. Yeah. Okay, definitely we'll be on the lookout for that. All right, well, I just want to say thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your story and information on, mixology and the things you like to do in your spare time.
Thanks to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of Science Talks. Continue the conversation with us next time as we learn more about the amazing science happening at the University of Arizona's BIO5 Institute.